Welcome back to Two Unemployed Actors. I'm Max, and it's time for an update on what's been happening. It's been a while since the last episode, so I feel like I owe you an explanation as to what's been going on, what the priorities are, what I've changed for this year as an actor and producer, and what to look forward to on the podcast this year.
Two unemployed actors, two unemployed actors, they're just between projects.
It has been a while between podcasts. Look, it was a busy year last year on many fronts, and there were competing priorities. As any emerging artist knows, you've got to be a slasher, you've got to be across everything. So presenting to camera work for corporates was something that really took off. Voiceovers was steady, lots of repeat clients, and the ability to make some money while sitting at your desk at home is always a good thing. The scripts aren't always that exciting as an actor. Making corporate speak sound relaxed and relatable is kind of a skill of mine, having 20 years of corporate under my belt. So I guess I'm a corporate translator. Anyway, sometimes it takes a lot of effort to make those scripts. The written by committee ones sound really interesting. But that pays well. and look, you're always learning something. And it's great to get on set, presenting to camera in front of lots of different production companies, some of whom have asked me back. Lots of repeat business last year, which was always good. Keeps the bills paid. But also still nurturing my 3 television shows that I'm looking at producing. Went to Screen Forever last year, planning on heading back again this year, and I can't wait. I think I'll be changing tact a little bit with the most commercial of the 3 projects in the comedy. It's the broadest, and I received a lot of constructive feedback from different production companies that are well established, and also commissioners, both networks and across the streamers. So I feel like I'm fishing in the right pond. I've just got to look, and it's a difficult environment. Those that listen to the last episode appreciate that. Talking to Screen Producers Australia CEO Matthew Diener on the lay of the land at the moment, and the fact that there is still outstanding legislation from the Australian government on what the minimum quotas should be for Australian content for the streamers that are at the moment unregulated. So a lot of them have pulled back on their commissioning, waiting for that. And even the most experienced production companies can sort of feel that. But shows are still getting made. Things are still getting commissioned. There's still hope out there. I've just got to make it as easy as possible for someone who can see the potential in the comedy to want to make it. And if that means partnering with an established production company to minimize risks, so be it. But another way is to make a short film version. And that's where I'm at. We'll have some existing IP then and a great proof of concept, but also a standalone short film that can be my first, producing credit. So it ticks all the right boxes. The challenge for me at the moment, writing the script, I actually found writing the pilot script easier than writing a script for the short film. In the process of writing the pilot script, I had butcher's papers across the wall filled with post-it notes representing character ideas, story ideas, ideas for a funny scene, stuff from real life, stuff that I've made up from getting these characters in my head for so long. And then working out how I could introduce these characters into this world in the pilot episode. It started to shape itself. So by the time I actually sat down and wrote, I was sort of had it really settled in my mind as to what it would look like, which made the process so much easier. And then going and getting a script producer attached and spending a day with Declan in Melbourne on pulling it apart and putting it back together again and really polishing it to within an inch of its life. And I think you can spend forever writing. Like I could still be doing version number 1 million on that script, but it's as good as it is at the moment. Put it aside. It's had great feedback in the industry when I do get asked for more materials from commissioners. It's great to have that send away because I haven't produced anything. So I need to show that I can write, that it can work. And that's why I not just had a pitch document, but a pilot script polished within an inch of its life. So that process happened, and now I'm sitting here going, how do I make a 7-minute short film? There's so much fun stuff I want to throw in there, but I risk having a whole lot of disjointed story moments and characters being introduced at the wrong time and just throwing all my toys in at the same time to say, look at this, and just not being able to tell a coherent story. So that's where I'm at the moment, really working on what that short film could look like, focusing, stepping back and focusing on what is the story? How do I want to introduce the world to this world? And what characters could I introduce that I've already written that could help move that story forward without these physical comedy moments and other comedy moments being funny in their own right, but distracting from the telling of the story. So I've got lots of good stuff. It's finding the right stuff to include, and it's saying no to certain things, to certain ideas that are work really well and are great. But it's like you can't squeeze 12 episodes into a 7-minute short film, obviously. So I'm kind of the funnel at the moment, reducing the ideas that don't work or that aren't, good enough to make it. Because it's really, this is the last moment of me spending my own money on development. I recognize that I might have to spend a little bit more to be able to make up for the fact that I don't have that experience. So I really want to have a polished short film that I can leverage to tell the story and introduce people to this world and create some existing IP and make it easier for people to understand what it is I'm trying to sell, and the pitch document and the pilot script. And then I can put it to bed and say, this is the best I've got. It's either going to sink or swim at that, because I'm not going to spend money making a pilot. I mean, could you imagine? I actually had a producer tell me, I don't know whether I've spoken about this on the podcast before, so here we go. I actually had a producer say, you should make the pilot. You're going to make the pilot. I mean, could you imagine? I could easily spend 250,000 Australian dollars to make, like a 25-minute pilot. And because I haven't produced television before, because I'm not partnering with an established production company, I'm going to make all the mistakes you make. I'm going to, it's going to basically, in a nutshell, it's going to look like I spent 50 grand on screen. Spending $250,000 with training wheels on is going to look like 50 grand on the screen. And then what do you do when you're selling it and the buyer, the commissioner says, great, love it, but I wish you'd have come to me earlier because I would have wanted this person for this role, or maybe we could have had this type of storyline introduced, that's a shame. Pass. Or you got to shoot it all over again. Or there's a gap between when it's made and when it's commissioned, right? It could go through the development process still, and say it does get greenlit. Well, I probably have to reshoot it anyway because certain actors may not be available who were in the pilot that was shot whenever. Anyway, there's just so much risk with that. I'm not prepared to take that risk. I'd rather spend a micro budget on a short film that exists, that can be entered into festivals, that can help my producing career as much as my acting career, and make the best of in 7 minutes rather than badly make 25 minutes at a lot more cost, and give it the best opportunity for success. Whether I Screen Forever, the conference in Australia that brings producers, whether they're established production companies all the way through to emerging producers like me, in the same room as the commissioners, those buying content. It's in May, and I don't know if I'll have everything ready in terms of the Paradise Palms comedy short film for then, but I'm definitely going. I'm definitely going to as many meetings as I can organise, saying hello to those that tolerated my meetings over the last couple of years, letting production companies, producers, commissioners know that I'm still here, still selling content, still creating stuff, still creating original ideas. I think it would be a disservice not to. All it takes is one person saying yes, so I might as well. It allows you to learn from all these panels and workshops and whatever, but also actually have real meetings with the real decision makers and network. So, why wouldn't I? This is the world I want to play in. This is the cost for me to do it. I just don't want to be the guy who turns up every year trying to sell the same 3 projects. I feel like I've taken them around the block a bit. It's time to sort of create some new interest around them. And it just makes sense to choose the most commercial, the most broadest. Oh my God, my English today. To really sell 100% out of. So that's what's been happening. I've got to remember that the reason I'm doing all of this is to get on set as an actor, to get on stage. Acting is the passion. The fact that I enjoy the business behind, that is the producing, is just a bonus. Just helps facilitate more opportunities to be acting on set. So I think it was easy for me to get lost in all of that last year. And if I'm honest with myself, I got pulled in a lot of different directions, and that's okay. But sometimes you can be so busy being busy, you forget what you're actually being busy for. So I'd encourage all of you, no matter where you are in the creative process, in front of the camera, behind the camera, thinking about coming into acting, whatever it is, evaluate regularly. What are you doing? Is it working? What are you enjoying? What aren't you enjoying? Change things up. Don't be afraid. Last year, I had a moment where, I was really busy doing lots of stuff and I just wasn't acting enough. And that's what I'm doing this all for. That meant a few difficult decisions. So they weren't difficult, really. I mean, they sort of decided themselves, if you like. It wasn't really a decision. I changed agents. I did take a risk moving to an agency, someone I knew who had been in the industry for a little bit, hadn't run an agency before, was also looking to produce some new work, and had a business partner I'd never heard of who, let's just say, had different limited experience and was perhaps better at selling the ideas of what he wanted to do than actually doing them. And that's a fair assessment and a solid distraction for the 2 people who are actually pushing the agency and doing the day-to-day. So with all that going on, I'll be honest, I was submitted to some great projects, both in the room auditions, self-tapes, across television commercials, television shows, and everything in between, and got a bit of work. But I think I went to Melbourne to talk to them about moving away, and it became a really sort of organic conversation because they were looking at moving away themselves into producing more. That was the aspect they enjoyed more. Moving away from the business partner that proved to be more of a distraction than a value add. So we parted ways, and there I was, a free agent again. It's been a while. So within a couple of weeks, I'd organised a new agent, now signed with agency 888. They have a lot of people on their books, and that made me a bit nervous. But they'd been in the business for quite some time, head office in Queensland, different state to where I'm at for those not in Australia. And I really interviewed them as much as they interviewed me, and I was really impressed with the person who was their representation in New South Wales, and her experience and her hunger to get actors work. And that reassured me that I'd be making the right decision, because you don't want someone who's just got a whole lot of people on their books and they're submitting the same people for the same roles all the time, and maybe no one's ever, there are people who aren't getting the time of day. I think you can be too busy, and I think it's great to have a portfolio of talent across all the ages and looks, etc., and levels of experience. There are those that need their hand held a bit more, that are looking at needing a bit more development, whether they're in just coming back to the career or starting their career in acting, or at the stage where they need a bit more experience in certain areas. And you've got the opportunity to do that because you've got the experienced professionals on your books as well, who you can just send to an audition and know that it'll be the best it can be. And I kind of think that that's the pot I've fallen into. I had new headshots thanks to Sally Flagg. Oh my God, love these headshots. She's just amazing and really couldn't be happier. Just Google Sally Flagg, take a look at her portfolio online and the type of talent she takes photos of and the type of photos she gets. It's amazing. And so that was awesome. So I've got new photos in my toolkit that hadn't seen the light of day yet. So I was sort of having a selection as I submitted to potential agents. Here's a selection of fresh headshots. And here's my show reel that's been updated. And here's my presenting to camera show reel. Here's, all of the tools in the toolkit, all sharpened, ready to go. And out of that conversation, updated the website, updated all my online profiles with the new headshots, show reel, etc. I'm confident that helped to no end to give my new agent confidence in pushing me out in the world. I mean, within 14 days, I had 4 auditions. I mean, come on. 2 in the room auditions and 2 self-tapes. I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm confident I've made the right decision. But anyone who's acting in Australia knows there isn't enough work. So you've got to make sure that you're doing what you can, whether it's voiceovers, whether it's writing, whether it's theatre work, presenting to camera, whatever it is that's paying the bills, because and keeping your work fit so that when the opportunities come along, you're ready to rock and roll. So for emerging actors in Australia, that's kind of the story, right? I don't think I'm telling you anything new there. It's certainly been my experience. So that worked out really well. I feel like I've got this renewed energy to do what it is I'm doing all this other stuff for, acting. And I took that another step. I auditioned for a few student films. Those that have been following my journey on this podcast know I'm not afraid to get out there and audition for leads in student films. I've probably had over 20 now over the last few years, scattered throughout that period. And I now know which schools to avoid, which ones to say yes to immediately. And in a nutshell, this particular project was a graduate project with AFTRS, one of the premier film schools in Australia, Australian Film, Television, Radio School. I personally have completed a few courses with them, the most recent with Screen Producers Australia, course with AFTRS to help on navigating the producing landscape as a producer, and a couple of an intensive course actually across 2 days on producing everything from what the spreadsheets would look like all the way through to where to start. So great. And I think that would be my 3rd student film with AFTRS. And some of you'd ask why. I mean, you don't get paid, right? But as an actor, you really get to take these opportunities, take these chances that you wouldn't normally get in a 50-worder or a guestie in the industry. And I relish that. Plus, it keeps you so work fit. Yes, you're networking, you're having a great time, but you're also keeping work fit, sharpening your skills, and getting to do things that you haven't done before, hopefully. There were a few firsts in this. It was a horror film, more suspense than, blood thrown at the screen, but it was really interesting. Under 10 minutes, a graduate production. And basically, I think from memory, they get graded on 2 projects. They have to work across 2 projects for their graduate pieces and in different roles on those projects. It was a co-direction, which made me a bit nervous, but it was like talking to left brain, right brain with the 2 directors. It was fascinating. And we're talking like a crew of like 20 to 30, depending on the day. A lot of footage to get shot in 6 days, especially the first couple of days, shooting on a location with limited time and a whole lot of footage to get. I was a bit nervous for them. So that was great. Special effects, makeup, light stunt work, running, falling, jumping, all that sort of stuff. But I really enjoyed it. Great story helps. So that was great. Yeah, so rehearsals went really well. I was just so excited. The shoot went perfectly. The edit looks fantastic. It's embargoed. I can't show you all, but I'm going to have snippets in my show reel, which is on my website, and that'll be updated this week. Hopefully by the time you're listening to this, but definitely by the end of the week. And I flicked it to the agent and said, look at this, this is what I've been busy doing, by the way, a lead in an AFTRS graduate production, and really proud of it. So I made sure I swung the pendulum back to focus on Max, the actor, and really proud of how I achieved that in a year where it could have gone sideways. I could have been so busy doing all this other stuff that I would have just forgotten about why I'm doing it for and end up with bad agent, no no on-set or limited on-set experience aside from like presenting to camera work. So yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. So learn from that. You know, no matter where you are in the industry with your experience, no matter what your creative role, stop and have a look at where you're at and where you want to be, what you're really enjoying, what you're not enjoying. Is there a short course? Is there something else that can help re-energize you and help you refocus while adding value to your CV and all the rest of it, making you more employable? Yeah, it's just a great way to come into this year re-energized. Everything sorted from headshots, showreel, agent perspective, and it's about getting out there and networking and, you know, doing what I love. So I'm probably going to be looking for more opportunities to get on set in student films this year, maybe like 2 or 3. You know, nothing huge, because I am, you know, there is other stuff I'm doing that makes me money that I can't ignore. Voiceovers is ticking along. Which is a pretty cool thing to say, considering I don't have an agent. You know, my work is corporate work, so I'm kind of happy with that. And presenting to camera is going really well. I think the last presenting to camera job I did was a production company I'd worked with before asking me back, and yeah, it's everything from the last one was demonstrating how an EV car is rechargeable and how that works through a service station or gas station, depending on where you are in the world, for the website, so that, you know, nice little informational. And before that was 2 days of shooting around a premium car brand that they were going to cut into a 30-minute video to help educate their salespeople around the country on how to sell that product, that car, which is really interesting because their experience was, listen, we could send them 100 pages of here's what to focus on, here's how to sell it, here's the features and benefits, but really it's not going to land for even those few that actually read the whole 100 pages, you know. But if they got to sit there and watch a 30-minute video, it was easier for them to retain all the right things. So that's great. And it's such a interesting world, whether it's talking to camera with an auto cue on HR policies for a security company as part of their onboarding experience for new recruits, through to presenting with a lot of energy on something I know nothing about. Again, using auto cue for a trade show, you know, video. So like it's, yeah, another one for a company's conference. Like it's so varied. It's just great that there are all these opportunities out there beyond the usual, I want to be an actor, get me onto television or film, or, you know, it's a really great way to sharpen your skills. And I'd certainly leverage the 20 years of corporate I had. I might as well get something else out of putting up with all those idiots in corporate land. So that's my story. That's why I've been busy. This year, the podcast is going to be a push. I'm looking at getting a whole lot of different guests. Again, if you look at the 104 episodes we've had to date, there are other actors at various levels of experience. There are industry professionals, whether they're writers, Hollywood directors, producers, agents. It's just a mix because I'm coming to them genuine, credible questions as I learn and navigate my way through the industry. Why not tap into industry experts and learn from them? So we'll look forward to more of that this year in a more consistent form, which is my way of forcing myself to make sure I have more podcast episodes. So look forward to that this year. But yeah, there's a nice library now of over 100 episodes to navigate your way through. Have a look on the website, enter whatever keywords you're interested in at the moment, and find an episode for you. It's great. Use it as a resource and look forward to more of it. So make sure you follow and subscribe. Follow us on social media. We'll let you know when the next episode's dropping and what it's going to be all about. Thanks for sticking with me. For those of you who reached out over the last few months saying, when is the next episode, Maxi? What's going on? So make sure you follow, because I'm looking forward to bringing you more interesting content in 2025. I'm Max Belmonte, and this is Two Unemployed Actors, the podcast.
Two unemployed actors.